What's up, scholars? Welcome back to another video. Today I am going to be talking about some of my favorite tropes in fiction. So obviously this will not be like an extensive list, all-inclusive, but these are just some of my top favorite tropes that I find in fiction, whether it be in books, manga, anime, movies, you name it. Some of my favorite tropes. I just adore them so much. There are a lot of tropes out there in fiction, anywhere from tropes specifically for the genre of mystery, the genre of fantasy, to tropes with the genre of romance, or just any genre. You're going to find specific tropes that fall into them that are just very popular or people just love and adore. So I'm here to talk about some of mine. So how I am going to do it, I'm going to list 3 of my favorites from fantasy, 3 from romance that I enjoy, and then 1 or 2 others that they don't specifically, especially with the books or manga that I'm thinking of specifically, they don't fall into like a set genre, or they don't go nicely into one of the others. So this is just some of my favorite tropes of all time that I love to read about. So let's start off with the biggest ones in fantasy that I love. So in fantasy, my all-time favorite trope is found family. It doesn't matter what kind. When people come together, they make their own little family, their own group that gets together. That is my favorite. That is my favorite thing to consume. One Piece does this spectacularly. The way Oda has crafted this found family dynamic within Luffy and the Straw Hats, and how each one of them, as different as they are, they kind of come together on their own and make this little misfit ragtag team that works so well together that otherwise they probably would have never been friends. They would have never been like in the same group. But now, because of like their circumstances and because of Luffy, they've come together and they have their own little family. I love it so much. The idea of found family is just wonderful, of being able to go off, whether it's an adventure, whether it's you're in like, for fantasy, whether you're in like an isolated kingdom or off on these adventures, and you have this found family that just kind of comes around you and builds on you. It's so fun to watch because you get to see this group come together to protect their own no matter who they go up against. And One Piece isn't the only like big manga or anime that does this. Fairy Tail is actually what really introduced me to the whole found family aspect. I read Fairy Tail and watched Fairy Tail way before I watched One Piece. And I know people have their issues with Fairy Tail, but for me, Fairy Tail is like a home. Fairy Tail is a home that you can go to. I love the idea of the friendship, and I love how they will literally go through anything to protect their own. Fairy Tail isn't just a name, it's not just a guild, it's home. It's this place where all of these different people can come together and live and laugh together. They cry together, they fight together. Found family is just one of those really special tropes that when it's done well, nothing can compare. And in my opinion, because like for Fairy Tail, even though there are complaints about like whether it be the power of friendship or fake out deaths, anything like that to do with Fairy Tail, none of it bothers me as much because of how strong that bond is, because of the found family and how they will literally do anything to protect their own. That's what drew me to Natsu's character in Fairy Tail, and that's what draws me to Luffy's character in One Piece. And it also, another found family that I just absolutely adore reading all the time is Harry Potter. The found family in here, the way Harry gets connected to Ron and Hermione and all the other Gryffindor, like Neville, and then the Weasley family itself, like in its entirety, like taking Harry in and pretty much adopting him into their family. And he also continues to get this found family with like Dumbledore and Hagrid. their relationship with Hagrid is just so special, and even his relationship with McGonagall, like the relationship he builds with her throughout the course of the series. I know there's a lot more that Harry Potter falls into trope wise, but I love the found family aspect of Harry Potter and how and it's just like Harry says that Hogwarts is his home. And that's exactly what this trope encompasses, whether it be One Piece, Fairy Tale, or Harry Potter, or any of the other books or manga out there that have a found family trope. The idea of these people or this place that you have these people in being your home, whether it be your real family or not, this place and these people around you, that is home. And that's such a beautiful, beautiful trope, and I love it so much. It's just so special to see. My next favorite trope, and I couldn't think of a lot of books just off the top of my head while I was thinking of this, but I did. Two of them are from like the same franchise. One is Bilbo Baggins from The Hobbit. I adore The Hobbit. I love Bilbo and the fact that he didn't really want to do it, but Gandalf kind of bullied him into it in a sense. But I love Bilbo's character in The Hobbit and how he didn't really want to go on this journey but ends up going and loves it, and he loves being part of the company and going with all of them to Under the Mountain. And on that same note, Frodo from Lord of the Rings is also a reluctant hero, is that he didn't really want to take the ring to Mordor. He didn't want to go up the mountain. He didn't want to face Sauron or anything like that, but because he saw the conflict between everyone else and realized that he was really the only one fit to do it because he wasn't lured by the ring's power at that point in time, he decides to do it, and he has his other friends with him to help him out. I really like Frodo as a character, and I can really connect with him and how he doesn't want to do it, but at the same time he sees that nobody else is really fit to do it, or it won't go well if somebody else does it, so he's like, fine, I will. I really like that, and I appreciate the bravery that that Frodo has when it comes to dealing with the ring, because that is no easy task. And yes, he falls victim to it at some point, but he still continues to his task with the help of Samwise. It's always with Samwise. So I really like how they're more of reluctant heroes, how it takes them a little bit to really get on board with their mission and what they're supposed to do. And another reluctant hero that just kind of pops to my mind is Ichigo from the manga Bleach, which the 1,000-Year Blood War is currently airing, so that's a lot of fun. But Ichigo didn't want to have part of anything. But he was kind of like, when Rukia transferred her powers, like he didn't really get a choice in it. And so it was just like, well, this is my situation now. Great. And it still it has a progression of him really falling into that role. And even like for like the first arc of it, he's like, I don't really want to do this. I don't want to be Soul Reaper. I don't want to be part of this society. But I owe a debt to this woman, so I'm gonna save her. At least that's how I view Ichigo, especially in that first arc, and then he kind of comes into his own and becomes a true hero as he keeps going and going. But I really, especially when he's first starting off, he seems like a very reluctant hero. And so I really do enjoy that trope. It can come with a lot of comedy, a lot of self-growth, and just really fun adventures for the person who is set out to be the hero, and watch as they transform into the hero, because that in itself, when the storytelling is just so beautiful, when you see this person who doesn't want to have anything to do with this journey, this quest, or this mission, and you see them slowly start to like their exterior chip away and they become more comfortable with it, or they find themselves in it and start to become the hero that everybody else thought that they could be. Whether they stay a hero after said mission is over, like when Frodo decides to leave with the elves at the end with Bilbo, like they don't always have to be the hero. They don't have to stay the hero, but to see them put down that reluctancy and become the hero they need to be for that circumstance is such a cool thing to see. I really like that trope. So then we have quests, and the first ones that popped in my head, of course, Lord of the Rings, and even Narnia. Narnia has some good, especially in like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That has a beautiful quest. I love that story so much. I love the details and the intricacies of said quest for them to get where they need to go. And I love in Lord of the Rings the Fellowship, how they go on their journey and their quest of how they end up getting separated and they're all doing their individual things and how it all connects back to the end. I love the start, the middle, and the end and how it all connects back together. I don't have much to say on it, but man, when it's done well, I love a good quest. I just love it so much. So those are my top 3 for fantasy tropes that I love to see. And now going on to like romance, because I do enjoy reading or watching some romance if it's done well and if it's good quality. But for romance, one of my favorite tropes is the enemies to lovers, but not in a sense that I think a lot of people take it to be now. When I talk about enemies to lovers, I talk about the blueprint. Pride and Prejudice. Well, I don't know if this is actually the blueprint. I think Taming of the Shrew by William Shakespeare is more of the blueprint. I love Taming of the Shrew because it is intrinsically enemies to lover, how they are so against each other at first and slowly their plan starts to unhatch and unfold and how they get together at the end. I love Taming of the Shrew. If you haven't read it, it's great. It's what the movie 10 Things I Hate About You is based off of, if you didn't know. But yes, Pride and Prejudice. This is what I'm talking about when I mean enemies to lovers. I love Elizabeth Bennet. I love Mr. Darcy. Their banter, the way they go back and forth, their arguments, the social setting, like when they're in the ballrooms and how it sets up for a very high conversation where they can talk about things without necessarily others hearing them. The way they go through their story of both of them kind of becoming better people for themselves because they've had a chance to reflect upon like their prejudices or their pride because it's been pointed out to each other. The fact that they both grow in this book and this novel on their own to meet the expectations of either one of them is so brilliant. I love how Jane Austen writes. I love all of her novels, but this one is by far my favorite novel of hers. The way she crafts this story of their love and how they come together, and it's not easy. It's not something simple as oh, well, he proposed to you in the middle of the book and she says no instead of yes. Like, this is the standard. I'm just saying, this is the standard. But also, when it comes to enemies to lovers, if you want a good manga to read, there's so many tropes that fall into this manga, and this is by far my favorite manga of all time. That may also be because I haven't finished One Piece yet, but I'm just saying. Right now, it's my favorite manga of all time, Skip Beat. Skip Beat is a brilliant story. It is an enemies to lovers. It's a slow burn. Oh my goodness. I could talk about this book. I could talk about this series all day. Like, this series is so amazing, but the enemies to lovers in this is so good and it's brilliantly done. And then once it shifts from enemies to lovers and then it just is pure comedy, it is hilarious to see how they start off as enemies and then how they're not enemies anymore, how they're friends. I can't really say much without spoiling it, but the way they progress throughout the story is such a treat to see. And this has one of the most unique protagonists, the most unique female lead ever. I'm gonna have to stop there because I could gush about Skip Beat all day. But Skip Beat is such a fantastic trope for enemies to lovers. But then you have another trope. It's more of like the unpopular popular. And I know I've read more than this, but for some reason when I was like going through my notes and trying to rack my brain for more that I've watched or read, I could not think of any. which really bothers me because it's one of my favorite tropes, but my brain just wasn't cooperating with me, so that's fine. But an unpopular popular that I just, it's one of my favorite romance animes, favorite romance mangas. It's Kimi ni Todoke. I love that story. Kaze Haya is a fantastic male lead. Kuronoma is a beautiful, beautiful, beautifully written female lead, and I love their story. I love their relationship, how it progresses, the way they communicate and interact with one another. That one's more of a feel good for me, and it really, really, really touches my heart. Another one that does this really good, I just thought of this, is in Fruits Basket. With this will just be a minor spoiler for those who haven't seen all of Fruits Basket, so minor spoiler. But with Yuki and Machi, their relationship is so pure, and it's so beautiful to see how it develops over the course of Fruits Basket, because you wouldn't really expect it when we first meet Yuki. You wouldn't expect that sort of relationship out, but by the end of Fruits Basket, and like after all the growth that Yuki goes through and how he meets Machi and the growth she goes through and how they kind of find each other and grow together, I love that. So yes, Yuki and Machi in Fruits Basket is another I would say is unpopular popular. So I actually did it when I was looking at my notes. I only had 2 for romance, and then I had 3 kind of like others that didn't nicely fit into either of those that I was going to be talking about. So we're going to go to the others. Some of this is like that can fall into mystery thriller. Some can kind of fit into romance or fantasy. So, and then some I'm not sure how to classify. So we're just going to kind of put it in like this other category. So the first one, a trope that I love, is self-discovery. And that can happen in almost any genre, so that's why it's hard to pin down exactly which one it goes into. But one of my favorite self-discovery ones is, again, Skip Beat. Kyoko's journey in this manga is just amazing. I love seeing her grow, I love seeing her develop, and how she really comes into her own and becomes her own person. It's truly just so inspiring, and it's just magical to see because there's not a lot of stories like this. Skip Beat is very unique in that aspect, but I love Kyoko in this, and she's not the only one who goes on this journey of self-discovery. We also get a journey with our male lead, Suruga Rin. So he gets a lot of development and goes on this journey of self-discovery for himself. Kyoko gets a journey of self-discovery for herself. I'm gonna have to make a separate video on Skip Beat. Just, there's so much to talk about here. But yes, amazing, amazing manga. This is my favorite manga of all time. And another self-discovery, I don't have it here with me, but Yona of the Dawn. Oh my goodness, I adore Yona of the Dawn. I was originally introduced to it with the anime adaptation, but since it only had 1 season, I went straight to the manga afterwards. But Yona of the Dawn, our main character, Yona, has one of the best journeys of self-growth, of self-discovery ever. I love that. They also, in Yona of the Dawn, they have a found family aspect of this group that comes together. It's so good. It's so good. Yona is a very, very likable main character, and she's very easy to relate to. And I love just seeing her growth, the power that she gets for herself, for the friends she cares about. It's amazing. I would highly recommend going to read Yona of the Dawn. For, if anything, if not just for like the fighting or the plot itself, for her own journey is beautiful to see. Also, I didn't grab it from my shelf, which I should have because it's just right back there. But another self-discovery that I've learned to appreciate recently is The Mayor of Casterbridge. The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. It is a classic, and it can be really hard to get through. But the journey of self-discovery that the main character in this book goes through I did not like this book whenever I first got assigned it when I was in like high school. I did not like this book when I first read it, but I grew to appreciate it over time, and the more I read about it, the more I read it, the more I delved into like what was actually going on in the story, the more I could truly appreciate Hardy's writing and the message he sends across with this journey of self-discovery and realization that our main character goes through. Michael Henchard in this book goes through so much, and he is a very tragic character, but also the more I read about it, he's a very brilliantly written character. And I know a lot of people may not like reading classics, or they can be confusing, but I would highly recommend this book just because the message underlying the story is actually really amazing. And I've come to appreciate it over the years, which would probably make my English teacher so happy. Another trope that I love, redemption arcs. When you can write a good one, redemption arcs are fantastic. Obviously, the best one to date is Prince Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. He has the best redemption arc I've seen in any piece of fiction. And it's wonderful. It is wonderful to behold and to watch. To see a character go from either being a villain or an antagonist that is on the opposing side, from being an antagonist to going through this huge journey, this change within themselves, realizing what they've been fighting for is wrong, or that the people they thought they could trust, they cannot trust, and it causes this conflict within themselves. And you see them struggle and just really think and take a dive within themselves to figure out who they truly are. Are they a product of what these people have made them to be, or are they who they're truly supposed to be? Listen, I love redemption arcs. Prince Zuko is my favorite, and I love watching him struggle to redeem himself and how he eventually does redeem himself. It's done beautifully, brilliantly, and perfectly. Another story that has redemption arcs, but I can't say the characters' names because it's spoilers and because it's not as well known as Avatar: The Last Airbender, is Yona of the Dawn. There are some redemption arcs in Yona of the Dawn that just floored me because I did not think that it was possible. I didn't think it could work, and then it did. Yona of the Dawn also has some good redemption arcs, and I would highly recommend going to check those out because it is really well written in Yona of the Dawn. And then there's the trope that I love of blurred morality, where you have situations that's not black and white. It's very convoluted, it's confusing. You don't really say, well, this is right, this is wrong. It's so heavy. And I think the best example I have of that recently that I've had the pleasure of reading, 86. The light novel of 86. If you haven't seen the anime adaptation is beautiful. There's so much going on in 86, but with the war that is going on and the way that the Republic has designed these people to fight, and how they're rejecting the humanity of a certain race of people, and how this rejected race treats the Republic and the way they view each other, the way the war is set out. None of it's easy. None of it is black or white. It's very messy. And I love in this, the main character kind of gets this realization of how messy war is and how this morality that she's clinging to is not as simple as black and white. There are things that she has to do that she probably wouldn't have done before meeting the Spearhead Squadron. So it's, oh my goodness, it's brilliant. It's dark, it's very heavy, but it is brilliant. I would highly recommend 86. And then another one of Blurred Morality. This is also one of my favorite mangas that I adore. I adore this story because it is not easy to understand, and I love that. Bungo Stray Dogs. There is nothing black and white about this manga. It is so complicated. It's very convoluted. The good guys are good guys because of certain things, and the bad guys are only bad guys because of certain things. But the further you get into it, you realize that the bad guys have a lot of good morality going for them, or the good guys don't really have the best people in their group. It's so good. I love how Bungo Stray Dogs plays on morality, on good and evil, on what is right, what is wrong, on who's really the enemy, who should we trust, who should we team up with, who are we really fighting. And on that note, the last trope I'm going to talk about is the trope where there is just so many mind games and chess games. I don't know if that there's like a proper term for it, but that's what I'm thinking in my head. But the way mind games get played out, this trope where you have just like one or two geniuses just on opposite sides and they're going head to head and you have to watch them fight. You get to see how their brain works, the processes. It makes stories so interesting. Easiest one to come to my head is Death Note, when L goes against Light. It is so interesting to see. I love seeing them battle against each other, how they're deducing things in their mind, reasoning things out, setting up these traps for each other, and seeing like who's gonna win in the end. I like love that tension. Death Note isn't the only one to do that. Bungo Stray Dogs does this so amazing. There are two geniuses in this series that just baffle my brain. And to see them go up against each other head to head and how they move pieces around, how like everybody's like a pawn to them. I love this. I love this so much. And I love when we get characters within shows that do this, that have this trope and that personality that makes them treat others like chess pieces. Like Classroom of the Elite, Ayana Koji. He's another one where he's going up against these other players, these other really smart players, and he just treats them like they're just nothing but pawns. They're just little pieces to his game. I love to see his brain work because you don't get inside his brain very often. That's what makes it really interesting when you actually do get inside his brain and see what he's thinking. Bleach also does this. There's a few characters in Bleach. I know most people have seen Bleach, so I think it's safe to say who it is, but just in case, here's like a little spoiler warning, just in case you haven't seen Bleach. But Aizen from Bleach is one of the smartest characters I've ever seen, and he's terrifying. The way he's able to manipulate others, the way he is able to just plan things out and anticipate so far ahead. It's terrifying, but it's so fun to watch. So fun to watch. The last one that I'm going to talk about where it comes to mind games, or like, this both falls into mind games and blurred morality, and that is The Wicked Sister. I've read this book this year. It's one of my favorite reads of this year. It can get very dark at times, but wow. Yeah, the morality in this is very blurred, and it's a family dynamic, family setting. Everything is very convoluted in this book, and the mind games that go on in this book, especially with the sisters, it's insane. The manipulation and just the wickedness of this person. It's just insane to see this, how it all plays out, and like you realize like the mind games of what all is going out, how everything's been planned for, everything has been taken care of, and the manipulation that goes on in this book is just wild. It is wild, but it's so worth the read. I loved this book. I also did a review of this book, I think. In my fall recommendations. Yeah, I did a review for this. But yes, those are just some of my favorite tropes with some of my top rated books or mangas. I really enjoy good tropes. I love getting to know more newer tropes that I may not have paid attention to before or not really recognized before. I love learning more about them. But at the end of the day, I think from all of the ones we discussed, Found Family is still just my absolute favorite. It holds a very special place in my heart because of the connection and the stories that I have with that. I just adore Found Family. Now, there are a lot of tropes I didn't talk about, a lot of genres I didn't talk about when it comes to tropes, but there are so many other tropes out there, and I didn't get to list them all. I just listed a couple that I really enjoy. So if y'all want to talk about it more in the comments, please feel free to. I'd love to have a conversation with y'all about these tropes. What are some of your favorite tropes? What are the ones you'd enjoy seeing the most when you're reading or watching something? I would love to know more. If you like some of the same ones I do, or if you don't like any of the ones I said, that's totally fine. Let me know down below what you think. But I didn't go too far into a lot of things because I wanted to avoid spoilers, and I don't know if y'all wanted like in-depth on tropes itself. I just kind of wanted to come on here and say what some of my favorite tropes were and why, and give some of the series that I love that has those tropes. So I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. My setup's a little different, and it will be different until the end of December because it's Christmas time. I have this lovely, lovely undecorated tree beside me, so I'll probably be decorating that today. So that's all for today. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I will see y'all next time, scholars. Bye!